The night the rain hammered down on the tin roofs, a 13-year-old girl named Amara balanced on a slippery plank stretched between shacks that floated on swamp water. Her bare feet were muddy, her dress torn, but her jaw was set in that way only kids who've grown up too fast carry themselves. Home was a one-room hut where her mother lay sweating with a leg infection that wouldn't heal. Medicine cost money. School felt like a dream she'd already lost, and the only thing left was the burlap sack she dragged behind her, filling it with scraps of metal and bottles just to buy a handful of rice. That night, as the dogs fought over bones and smoke hung thick in the air, she heard it so faint she thought it was the wind at first. A cry thin and weak slipping out from behind the rustle of rats. She froze. Her heart kicked in her chest. Then it came again, sharper, unmistakable. A baby. She dropped the sack and stumbled over piles of trash, pushing aside cardboard and rotting food until she saw it, a filthy bundle twitching under a torn blanket. Her hands shook as she pulled it back. A baby girl, pale as the moon, eyes half-closed, lips trembling. Around her tiny neck hung a silver necklace that sparkled like it belonged to another universe. Amara whispered to herself, "I can't. I don't have milk. I don't even have bread." She almost walked away. Almost. Then the baby whimpered again, weaker this time, like she was pleading not to be forgotten. That sound cut deeper than hunger, deeper than fear. Tears welled up and Amara muttered, "No. I won't leave you, even if I've got nothing." She wrapped the child in her scarf and carried her home through the dark, whispering, "You're mine now." Her mother's eyes widened when she saw the bundle. "Amara, what have you done?" "I found her in the trash," the girl stammered. "She would have died." For a long moment, the only sound was the rain beating on the roof. Then her mother reached out, touched the baby's cheek, and whispered, "God doesn't place life in your arms by accident. You did right." By morning, Amara had given the child a name, Lila. She strapped the baby to her back with a piece of faded cloth and went on picking trash. Every bottle she dropped in the sack clinked like defiance against the voices that soon followed her. Neighbors sneered. She stole that baby for pity money. Children mocked her, imitating the baby's cries. Women at the water stand clucked. That child's cursed. Too white, too foreign. Amara kept her eyes low, biting her lip, carrying the baby closer to her chest. At home, her mother would squeeze her hand and whisper, "Let them talk. They don't carry what you carry." But nothing prepared her for the night Lila burned with fever. The child's body shook, her breath came in shallow gasps, and Amara panicked. She begged at doors, pleaded at windows, but most slammed their doors. One woman hissed, "She's not even your child. Why should we waste medicine?" Amara's voice cracked in the street. "Please, she'll die." Finally, an old man shuffled forward, pressed a small bottle of tablets into her hand, and said softly, "Not much, but it'll help tonight." Amara crushed the tablets, fed them with water, and rocked the baby until the fever broke. She cried silently into Lila's hair. "You're safe. No one's taking you away. Not hunger, not sickness, not this cruel world." Across town, in a mansion of marble and chandeliers, a man named Richard Caldwell stared into his glass of whiskey. His wife had died giving birth months before her last words, a plea that he protect their daughter. He had sworn it hung a family heirloom necklace around the baby's neck and poured his whole soul into her. But betrayal came from within. A trusted servant took bribes from jealous relatives, shut off the cameras, and stole the child in the night. By morning, the crib was empty. Richard searched, begged, paid investigators, but all that came back were rumors the infant had been dumped in the slums, never to survive. He lived each day like a ghost, clinging to the matching pendant that should have never left her. Months later, Richard forced himself onto another charity run, delivering supplies to a clinic in the poorest quarter. He hated these trips and loved them at the same time. It was the only way to feel close to the causes his wife cared for. The convoy rolled over cracked streets into the swamp settlement. Children ran barefoot on planks. Women balanced basins on their heads, and the air reeked of smoke and sewage. Richard stepped out, shook hands with the tired nurse, and carried boxes inside. Then he heard it. An infant's cry, sharp, insistent. He turned, and there she was, A thin girl no older than 13 walking with a sack over one shoulder, a baby tied to her back. The child was pale, strikingly white against the girl's dark skin. His chest tightened. Then the baby fussed and a pendant slipped into view. The silver glint nearly blinded him. His pendant. His daughter's pendant. He froze, the world dissolving. His staff asked if he was all right, but he waved them silent. Every muscle in his body screamed to run to snatch the child, but grief had taught him not to shatter hope with haste. He walked slowly toward the girl. She stiffened, clutching the baby tighter. "We have nothing," she said hoarsely. "Nothing you'd want." Richard's voice trembled. "That necklace. I know it. My daughter wore one just like it the night she disappeared." The crowd gathered. Whispers buzzed. "He says it's his baby. Impossible." Others shouted, "That girl feeds the child before herself. Thieves don't starve for another mouth." Amara's cheeks burned. "Her name is Lila. I found her in the trash. She was dying. I didn't steal her. I saved her." Her voice cracked but didn't break. Richard stepped closer, eyes wet. "My name is Richard Caldwell. Months ago, my child was stolen from her crib. That pendant was crafted to match the one my wife wore the night she died. I swore it would never leave our daughter's neck, and now I see it here." Gasps erupted. The settlement buzzed like a hive. Some demanded police, others muttered prayers. Amara shook, whispering, "If she's yours, take her. But don't let anyone say I'm a thief. I'd rather starve forever than wear that name." Richard's chest heaved. He extended his arms slowly. "Let me hold her. Not to take her. Not yet. Only to know if she's truly mine." Amara saw his grief, saw the cracks in his wealthy armor. Her hands trembled as she passed Lila to him. Richard cradled the baby, kissed her hair, and broke down sobbing in the dirt. The crowd fell silent. A billionaire crying like a broken man, clutching his daughter as though the world had just restarted. 3 days later, the clinic nurse opened a sealed envelope. "The DNA confirms it. This child is Evelyn Caldwell. She is your daughter." Richard bowed his head, a prayer on his lips. He turned to Amara. "You carried my daughter out of death. I can never repay what you've done." Within a week, Amara and her mother were moved into a safe house. Her mother received real medical care for the first time. The fever faded, her leg began to heal. Amara walked hallways that smelled of antiseptic instead of mold. She held books again, her hunger for learning burning stronger than ever. Richard made sure she returned to school, her uniform crisp, her shoes polished. Lila, now Evelyn, was always near, often giggling in Amara's lap while she studied. For the first time, the mansion didn't echo with emptiness. But Richard wanted more than gratitude. He called his board together, announced the creation of the Caldwell-Lila Foundation, dedicated to feeding, housing, and schooling children who'd been forgotten. The girl who saved my daughter had nothing he told the cameras, yet she gave everything. Months later, in a hall filled with lights and press, Richard stood with Evelyn in his arms and Amara at his side. His voice rang steady. "The hero who saved my family wasn't a soldier or a doctor. She was a poor girl from the slums. From this day forward, Amara is my family." The crowd rose, applause thundering. Amara stepped up to the microphone, her voice small but steady. "I only did what was right. Love doesn't ask about skin color, money, or where you're from. It just asks if you'll care, even when it costs you everything." The hall erupted, some clapping, some wiping tears. Richard placed a hand on her shoulder, pride glistening in his eyes. And outside those doors, the story spread like fire about the girl from nothing, who saved a billionaire's daughter and changed the fate of 2 families forever. Now here's the question for you: was society right to scorn a child who tried to save a life? Or do we all have blind spots when it comes to who we choose to believe? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you would have done if you were in Amara's shoes. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because tomorrow we'll dive into another story that tests the limits of justice, love, and what we owe each other.